Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Minutes. Persons participating by way of a video conference or teleconference shall ensure their audio is muted at all times, except when the board chair announces public comment periods. At those designated times, members of the public wishing to speak shall enable their audio and state their name for the record. When multiple members of the public wish to speak, the clerk will determine the order of speakers and announce their names accordingly. To ensure proper conduct, the board reserves the right to mute the audio and video of any member of the public violating the generally accepted principles and decorum of official public meetings. Mr. Chair, we'll start with the folks in the room. I think there was one.
Great, thank you. Yes, Marike, good morning.
And Marike, just before you start, I want to make a note for the online folks. The camera that looks at the lectern is not functioning at this time, so we'll just use this view for the entire meeting.
Hello. Today I'm just reading from a draft because we were evacuated. There was a fire in Oregon House, and it was a little bit of a rough afternoon. Okay, dear Yuba Water Agency, it is now July 19th, and the situation with North Yuba is getting more and more absurd. Your June 6th offer was an offer combined with South Feather, free water using unused capacity of the ditch, and free technical help with studying the losses, obtaining data where the losses are exactly, how much, and what method can be used to target and improve them. All this for free? Out of genuine concern that has built up at the Yuba Water Agency and South Feather, thank you, by the way. That out of genuine concern that North Yuba's customer service, public relations, and water rights protecting effort are not at all optimal at this point. A wonderful offer, a wonderful opportunity for North Yuba to reset and keep access to the future financial help from the Yuba Water Agency and the water itself. Alas, the district chooses to do the indefensible. Consequences be darned. And there is actually cynically 11 CFS of unused capacity available in the ditch, which is the exact amount of capacity that we used to run a modest delivery with in prior years. Your offer did not appear in their agenda, even not on their latest special meeting agenda last Thursday. No public response at all, except a letter stating they don't want to take it, that we only saw as part of a regular PRA request. I find this absurd. I find it rude towards you all, and quite frankly, out of the natural order of things. What is most important for me, actually, however, is to ask, what do you think of this? Yuba Water Agency is disrespected by a small special district with rogue leadership, and I wonder if there's any reasonable answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, Charles. We'll go to you next.
Hello, can you hear me? Good. Good morning, Charles Sharp, Oregon House. Gentlemen, I concur with what Mariki has said. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Charles. Okay, I do not see any additional public comment at this time, so we will move on to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Have a first and a second. Any public comment on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great, thank you. Okay, next up, we have item 2 on the agenda, which is, get the right page in front of me here. Consider approval of a proclamation recognize the retirement of Jeff Raybone, relicensing project manager after 12 years with the agency. So Jeff, if you'd join me down at the podium, please.
Do we have an option? We'll extend your contract. I'm glad this camera isn't.
So like one of us here and one of us right there. Proclamation recognizing Jeff Raybone for 12 years of dedicated service to the Yuba Water Agency. Whereas Jeff Raybone's 12-year career with Yuba Water Agency began in July of 2010, and he served his entire tenure as the relicensing project manager, leading efforts to procure a long-term license from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission for the Yuba River Development Project. And whereas Jeff's professional experience provided an excellent match for Yuba Water's needs, given his previous 27 years of service in the field of relicensing at the Merced Irrigation District in Southern California Edison, respectively. And whereas throughout his career, Jeff set the highest standard using factual data and proven scientific methods paired with paramount professionalism, collaborating with countless stakeholders throughout the exceptionally complex relicensing process. And whereas Jeff's continuously demonstrated work ethic produced positive outcomes for the agency as a result of his dedication to the Yuba River Development Project, the river management team, voluntary agreement efforts, and focused analysis of biological opinions. And whereas Jeff maintained strong working relationships with a wide variety of government officials, specialized consultant teams, and non-government organizations throughout the relicensing process. And whereas Jeff served as an integral member of Yuba Water's executive team, and he will be missed by all of those who have worked with him over the years. And whereas the board of directors, current and past employees, local and regional stakeholders, consultants, and many others express their appreciation for Jeff's countless contributions and wish him well in his retirement. And now, therefore, let it be known that this proclamation was duly passed, well, will be duly passed, hopefully, by the board of directors of the Yuba Water Agency at a regular meeting held July 19th, 2022, and recognizes Jeff Raybone for his extraordinary service to the agency and the people of Yuba County. So thank you, Jeff. We really appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Sure, welcome to. I would like to say a few words of thanks to the board of directors and the agency, Willie, Terry, everybody, Dick. It's been a real pleasure to work with such a high-performing, friendly, capable team, and you've shown me nothing but support and friendship, and I really appreciate it. And I wish you all the best. You're in good hands with John and Joanna and Jacob and Jeff and Willie, and I think you'll do just fine, but there's a lot of challenges out there, and so keep up the good work, and I'm sure you will. I'll be reading all about you. You all know how much I like to read. Thank you again.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.
Okay, any public comment on this item? Yes.
Thank you. I'm Jim Lynch with HDR, and we've worked with Jeff for many, many years. I was asked to put some material together to honor Jeff, and actually I fell way short of that. And instead, we developed a picture with comments from our staff that we'll present to Jeff from various people, the many, many people who Jeff has touched. I would just like to say that in my experience, working a lot in California for 40 years, YCWA is at the pinnacle of public agencies, and no employee exemplifies that better than Jeff. And it starts with Willie and it flows down, and Jeff is the very top. I can tell you that the people he's worked with, the professionalism, the integrity, the collaboration, the honesty, and his willingness to see the other side has just been shown over and over again to the benefit of YCWA. I won't say he's irreplaceable because no one's irreplaceable, but he's certainly been an example for your staff to aspire to as they move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make some comments.
Sure.
So, Jim, thank you for those comments. And I think we all know Jeff as our relicensing project manager. And, you know, Kurt brought him in, I think, at the advice of Jim Lynch, who just gave comment, you know, when we started the relicensing process. And Jeff has been invaluable in that process. And I'll tell you, we can talk about relicensing. And I think that we all thought we would have a license before Jeff retired, but we don't, and that's okay. Jeff was kind of our exposed nerve throughout the relicensing process. He's the guy that kept his ear to the ground, read all the documents, you know, word for word, page for page, made sure that everything we're doing for the past, what's been over 12 years now, is consistent, concise, and accurate, and, you know, strategic. But let's set that aside. Yes, Jeff's a wonderful relicensing project manager, but he's much more than that. Jeff didn't go to college and say, I want to be a relicensing project manager. Actually, Jeff, I don't know, got out of college. Jeff, I'm going to get this wrong, but I'm going to try. He got out of college, and I think he got a job at like Kaiser Steel in Southern California, right? Where are you at, Jeff? Is that right? Yeah. So, and I don't know, he tells me stories of running a forklift and, you know, doing all these, you know, maintenance type things and, you know, like blue collar working up the ranks. And then he gets a job at, you know, Southern California Edison. I don't think it's in biology. I don't think it's in relicensing. I think it's like maintenance or something like that. And then he uses his skills and his talents and his, you know, desire to continue to move forward. And he moves into the relicensing department at SoCal Edison and then to Merced and then here at the water agency. But the agency was able to tap all of those experiences. So it's not just, you know, hey, Jeff, what do we do with this one strategic, you know, move in relicensing? It's, hey, Jeff, the agency's going from 30 employees to 90 employees in, you know, 7 years. How do we do this? You know, what do you know? What have you seen? Help us. You know, those are the types of things that Jeff brought, you know, much more than a relicensing project manager. And then you add on just his unique, lovable personality and his newfound post-COVID hairstyle. And it just gives you what we have today. So I just want to thank Jeff for everything he's done. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to be living in the foothills and be around. So, of course, I'm going to be calling him when I say, hey, what did we do with that one file, that one thing? But, Jeff, you're the man. We think you're wonderful. Thank you. I think Andy said, we'll extend your contract. It's not, I know last Thursday was your official last day, but I think there's a grace period. No, okay, all right. Well, okay. We love him, he may not love us.
I say, what happens if we don't approve the resolution? Then does he have to stay around?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any board comments?
Through the chair. So just a quick comment, Jeff. I won't embarrass you by telling you that we're going to miss you, because I won't. I know where you live, and you're almost next door, so I'll track you down kind of like Willie. But it's been a pleasure. So I think you'll find there is light not only at the end of the tunnel, you're at the beginning of that tunnel, and it looks really good. So enjoy it.
Thank you.
All right. Jeff, the water agency is more than a job. It's a family. It's an attitude, and you're an important part of that. And you know, like I said, you can't be replaced, really. There's nobody like you, and we really enjoyed working with you. And as much as you worked with the relicensing, is there any hope, any light at the end of the tunnel on the stuff that you've been doing? I'm just kind of curious whether you think there is or not. But thank you very much for what you've done.
Okay.
Yeah, Jeff, I've watched the relicensing as long as you have, and I've worried about other entities, you know, licenses. But 40 years ago, after we started, I thought there was no way that the state would let Yuba County have such a great license. And when the other partnerships who went ahead of us, and some of them have their license, it gave me hope that we would get a license. So I've gone from doubting years ago to being very much in your camp that the license is just unbelievable that Yuba County is going to have one. And with your help. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks, Jeff. I mean, you've been amazing. And I think that it's not just the license. I mean, you are just always a friendly, smiling face. And I know that when times aren't fantastic, you still always have a smile on your face. And you've always come to work and really loved the people around you. And I think that's the kind of home type atmosphere the agency has. And it's because of your attitude and that you bring. And so I just want to say thank you. And I hope that you enjoy your retirement, live it out in Yuba County, make every second count. Thanks.
Thank you. Any additional board comment or public comment? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion to
make a motion to approve?
Second.
Yeah, I have 2 firsts and 2 seconds. I'm not sure how you're going to record that, Jim, but you can just put them all in. That'd be great. Okay. So we'll do roll call vote for this.
Very good. Thank you. Let's start with Director Hasty.
Aye.
Director Matthews.
Aye.
Director Fletcher.
Absolutely.
Director Blazer.
Yes.
Director Fuhrer.
Yes.
Director Vasquez.
Yes.
And Director Bradford.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, moving on to item number 3, receive a presentation about the completion of curriculum development project of the Yuba Water Education Program. So, Creighton.
Good morning, Creighton Avila. I'm your program manager for education. Before we have the project manager, Dee Cordell, come up and talk to you, I just wanted to say, this is one step in the process for the countywide curriculum. Today, the teachers have completed it. We have some more steps to go through, and I'll get into that when I come back up. But first, we want to have the teachers come up here and give you a presentation about all the hard work that they've done. So, Dee.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Creighton. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dee Cordell. I'm way shorter than Creighton. I'm the communications manager and the project manager for the Water Education Center and the Water Education Curriculum Project. I just wanted to, before I introduce, we have 2 teachers that are going to talk to you today. One is here in person and one is joining us online. And they are both remarkable. They are the 2 extremes, right? We have a first grade and a high school teacher. So we can smother you with cuteness and science, and then also a lot of science on the other side. So I just want to really quickly recap for you kind of how we got here and what this project is. In April of 2020, your board approved the plan to have the local teachers create curriculum based on the Yuba River watershed. And of course, we had just started COVID at that time. And so that summer, the summer of 2020, we had 40 teachers that we hired, and they received special training on how to do that, how to develop curriculum that meets next generation science standards. And then they worked all summer, and they worked so hard. I mean, we were all kind of shut in that summer, and they really put all of their time and effort and energy into creating some remarkable curriculum. They started implementing it as best they could online, but as you recall, all the students were at home and we were doing online learning. And so that was really challenging, and they weren't able to implement a lot of the lessons that they had written because of that. So last year, your board approved a second year of curriculum work to fully implement it and test it out and make improvements to it to make sure that it was as easy as possible to implement for new teachers that we would introduce this to in the future, to try and make it as adoptable as possible so that all the schools in Yuba County are teaching it. We had 48 teachers in all this year. Some were new and some were returning teachers that served kind of as mentors and helped to polish the curriculum that they wrote. In all, these teachers developed 15 units of instruction, well over 200 individual lessons, all based on the Yuba River watershed. And every single grade has very unique curriculum that is developed locally, and it is based on our watershed and our missions. I encourage you, if you haven't already taken a look, we have some posters around the room with some adorable thank you cards from one of our teachers' students that are thanking you, to thank you for your effort and the finance that you put into making this problem, or making this program happen. We also have some design work from the high school class that'll be presenting later, showing drawings that they did, their schematics of the dam and things like that. So there's a lot of different stuff around the room, great pictures from several different grades that just kind of demonstrate the work that's been done. I also would like to point out that both Anna Newman and Nicodemus is also on the phone as well, joining us today. So if there are any additional questions about the process or whatever, our consultants that helped kind of guide the teachers through this program are online as well. Before I introduce our first teacher, April Jones, you might remember her as, you remember the little Cruz, that adorable little guy that made the watershed video? That was April's class. And I wanted to, before she ever knew, before I ever called her and said, please, would you come and give a presentation? She wrote this letter to you, and so I wanted to read it to you on her behalf. Dear Yuba Water Agency, thank you so very much for hiring, training, and supporting Yuba County teachers for the Yuba River Watershed curriculum these past 2 difficult years. This opportunity added to the Salmon in the Classroom project that I've already done for 29 years. I have greatly appreciated the opportunity to make learning real for my students. I am truly grateful to Yuba Water for all of your ongoing support for such an important project that truly impacts learning in the classroom. Thank you for your donation of money and supplies and the payment for the transportation costs involved in taking my students to the river to release the salmon fry. This is such an important piece of the project that makes the learning meaningful. My students enjoyed the curriculum and the chance to have a watershed expo in our classroom where they were interviewed and shared their knowledge with the parents and other students at our school. Again, I'm very grateful for this opportunity to not only help my students grow and learn, but for the personal growth that I have made during this project. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce April Jones, a first grade teacher at Lone Tree Elementary School. And she's going to tell us a little bit about the curriculum that she created and has been working on for the last 2 years. Come on.
Hi. I didn't know it was going to be so official and big. Dee Dee called up and said, hey, April, what are you doing next week? And I'm like, well, I'm okay. I'm here. So the agency and I go way, way back. I started doing the Salmon in the Classroom project 29 years ago. And I've raised the eggs, hatched them, and taken my students to the river to release them for many, many years. I don't know if Brent remembers, but about 27 years ago when he was just a young chap, he was invited, the EC Fly Fishers Club are the ones that always helped with the eggs and the Salmon in the Classroom project. And she's like, you've got to thank the agency and Brent. So we invited him to a production and he actually came. We were like, wow, this bigwig person is coming to watch our whole show. So for years and years, I continued implementing science and doing rivers and ponds and all of this science education with my first graders because I have taught first grade for 29 years, if that's 6 and 7 year olds the whole time. So just before the end of our school year when COVID started, Dee Dee called up and said, hey, I've got this thing I want you to apply for to write some curriculum. And I was like, okay, all my trips for the summer were canceled. I'm like, okay, I'm game. I did not know what that meant. I was told, well, you'll write a couple of lessons about the, watershed and learn about the watershed and how to implement the next generation science standards. And I was like, that's fine. Well, it ended up not being just a few lessons. It ended up being units. Myself and 3 of my colleagues from the county, it was just really difficult to decide, how do you teach this to 6 and 7 year olds? We were all first grade teachers. And so our units, we started with what is a watershed? And I was lucky. My school actually was in session. And so we were remote for about 6 weeks. And then we actually went into the classroom and we had half of our students in the morning and half in the afternoon. And so I actually had a live class to teach to and get to do it twice so I could improve it. And my students were just, dying to be at school. It was just so exciting to them. I had, posters and things around the room. We created our products. And so we started with what is a watershed, and they actually got to make a watershed model. And you saw Cruz. I actually thought about, I was like, we should invite Cruz here. Cute kid. Last year's class and this year's class really, they just enjoyed the curriculum so much and became so invested in it. We made our watershed models, And then this year I improved it. We added labels. We continued working on it all year. So the project ended up not just being, something I did for a month. It actually stretched out about 6 months of my school year this year. And we did the watershed. We did natural resources in the watershed. We talked about living and non-living things. And then we went into classifying animals in the watershed. You know, what is a bird? What is a reptile? And then talking about the ones that we have where we live. And then my specialty, of course, is fish. So we did a whole unit on fish. And then I actually started a new project, a new unit on birds. I wrote a grant and got binoculars. And at Lone Tree School, if you've never been there, we're located on the base, and you know, there's lots of land and animals around us. And so we were quite lucky to get a chance to see lots of different birds and ground squirrels. And we actually were visited by a juvenile bald eagle, which is very rare, and we were very excited. And so within all the curriculum that my team and I created, we made sure that there was a lot of writing. There was a lot of observations. There was art. And so the cards that are around the room, they're from a piece of art that my students did. And the project for me helped me to grow and to learn and to take something and then figure out, like, what do you do to make this be more? Like, we've already been doing the salmon. We ended up making these giant stuffed salmon. We labeled them. But then on the back, part of first grade is to talk about adaptations of animals. And so they had to write about that. And they were very invested in the project. And so at the end, my team, we had a hard time. We didn't have something that we were creating or solving. And so we hashed it out with Nicodemus so many times, like, what are we going to do for first grade as kind of a culmination thing? Where are we going with this? And so in my classroom, I had done expos a lot. And so we did a watershed expo. We, of course, could not do it last year because of COVID, but this year I asked permission, and on the very last Friday of May was given permission to invite the parents into the classroom and gave them a page of questions to interview their children. And so all of their nature journals and their art and their projects were all around the room, and their watershed models were all outside, and they were able to engage their child in a conversation about what they learned. Because for me, even if they're 6 or 7, they can teach somebody something. And that's pretty much what we want to do with this curriculum. Is we don't want just for one teacher to be doing it. We want for all the teachers in the county to be able to teach their children about the animals and the natural resources in their environment, so that they can hold it in their heart, and they can, grow up, and maybe they don't go into a career that, is something that is science, but they'll always hold that in their heart. And so that's pretty much what I wanted to tell you, but I did make a little video that I think Dee Dee said that you can show, and it's just a little 2-minute clip of my students with some of their work, their projects, the expo. And so if you...
It's up here, Jim? Share screen first. Share screen, share sound. File reading failed. Oh, uh-oh. Can you come drive? Maybe I did something wrong. Oh, it's so darn cute. If we can't play it, I'll email it to everyone later. So cute. Okay.
Final Jeopardy music.
While Jim looks for that, I do want to take a quick moment to just point out that several of the other teachers and advisors that we've had throughout this program are online with us today. And I'm just so darn grateful for every single one of them, because, clearly we couldn't have done any of this without all of these amazing teachers and administrators that have been helping us out. That looks good. I don't hear any sound.
I learned so much during COVID of computer and Google Slides and how to do everything on the computer. It was amazing. I learned like so much in like 2 months of time. It was just incredible.
There we go. So thank you so much, April. Can we give a round of applause to April? She's amazing. Thank you so much. What's going to play again? Stop share. Stop the insanity. Okay, so then the next presentation is right here. Okay, I will run that for Daniel. Okay, so next up, from first grade, we hop into high school, and we are very grateful to have Dan Huminski with us today, who's a teacher at Lyndhurst and has been part of this program and has some really interesting science that he has developed with his students to share. Daniel, I will share screen and run your slides for you from here, so give me just a second to get your slides up.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for this opportunity. So, Stevie said...
The video started playing again. Sorry about that.
I don't mind the soundtrack. So yeah, I'm a science teacher at Lyndhurst High School, and I mainly teach ninth graders. So this is mainly a product for our unit for the ninth graders. And thanks for letting me be on Zoom too. I'm just out of town seeing some family. So kind of, I want three main takeaways to leave you with through my experience with this. One is kind of just the purposeful design and kind of implementation of the unit that was kind of shepherded by Nicodemus and Anna with support from Dee Dee, and like the effectiveness of the unit on student learning. And then lastly, kind of the wealth of knowledge that our students gained, and I think will kind of continue with them. A lot of times with a curriculum, the sort of like creating an awe or inspiration comes naturally. The kind of recent pictures from the James Webb Telescope is a good kind of example of that. But it's hard to be connected to it. It may spark curiosity, but that kind of internalization of curriculum is really hard to do as an educator, and I think is rare. And so this project allowed for that. It really contextualized and grounded the curriculum in a more accessible way for our students. I can tell you, the district I'm in, we adopted a textbook for science class for life science biology that is sort of California based. So it does try to make it kind of more local, but it talks about Monterey Bay and sea otters and Death Valley and Joshua Tree. And it may, touch upon Sierra Nevada a little bit, and it talks about redwood trees, but that's that's not something many of our students have experienced. So it still becomes a little bit more kind of conceptual. And so this curriculum allows us sort of like internalization and connection that doesn't happen usually. Let me get you next slide, please. So when we developed the curriculum, as Didi had mentioned, it's guided by standards, and we wanted the students to not just to kind of experience a curriculum that ties the water that's coming out of the faucet, that ties into like a river that they walk next to or even swim on a hot day. So they kind of experience all this stuff, and now we want to add the rigor. And these standards allowed us to do that. So we were guided by the next generation science standards. I won't obviously go into detail, but as a science teacher, we weren't just hitting on science practices. We weren't just hitting on environmental practices and concepts, but we were hitting on English language arts. So there was a lot of writing and reading, math, graphing skills, ratios, computations they had to do. So it wasn't just kind of like entertaining or just an experience. It was also kind of had this depth to it, and the standards guided that. Next slide, please. The kind of quote here at the top, I'll leave you a second to kind of skim through that, but that kind of sums up the issue that this unit is kind of tackling. We live in a semi-arid climate, and California is really ambitious about economic and population growth, and that's oftentimes this kind of creates a conflict. And so this unit is trying to kind of have students kind of analyze this issue. And there's no perfect solution to this. There's no kind of one solution. It's really about sort of management, this kind of nuanced understanding, which is, needed for, when they're going to be adults and have jobs. And so this curriculum, we kind of had four main phases. One was kind of the fundamentals. You can see there in the kind of upper left, kind of just going over what a water cycle is, what a watershed is. And then we had this challenge cycle. And this is kind of that first main point of the kind of purposeful design of the unit is we kind of expose students to different issues, but have them realize, oh, this is actually a problem. I wonder if there's a solution to it. And rather than give them the solution, the curriculum helped to guide them to coming up with these solutions. So, we have floods, we have droughts here in California. So sometimes we have too much water and sometimes we have too little water. And so that kind of naturally led them to realize, well, one main solution we have to that is dams. And so they came up with that, and we said, all right, well, here are the dams in our watershed. And then we kind of looked at the kind of near disaster recently at the dam in Oroville and said, well, what about our local dam, the New Bulledge Bar Dam? How can we make sure that will be able to manage atmospheric rivers? And so they kind of came up with, what if they had a second spillway? And then I said, well, that is actually something that is being sort of planned out. And then we kind of, the last phase, this kind of solution identification is we kind of introduced, now that they saw the kind of purpose of the dams, and we said, well, who's using this water? So they had to take on different roles, whether it be a farmer or a rancher or wildlife biologist, or civil engineer, and they had to look at certain data, and then they used that information to kind of collaborate and talk about, well, there is, some issues with, salmon, natural or sort of historic breeding ground. Some of it's been cut off. What can we do to have salmon access that? And so they looked at certain solutions for that. Next slide, please. So here's some just examples of some of the things that the students saw and had to kind of analyze. So there's a lot of sort of data analyzation, different kind of visual representations, diagrams, graphs that they had to analyze. And, it's all, again, like local based. They're seeing locations, they're seeing things that they've kind of hear about and experience themselves. Next slide, please. And, we looked at sort of data, and it wasn't just looking at or analyzing data, but they also had to, create their own graphs. Again, they can see kind of their own neighborhood, where they live, in this curriculum. And again, I'm not guiding them towards one answer. I'm kind of exposing them, or we were designing this to kind of expose them to the stuff to make them kind of think deeply about kind of the role of water in our watershed, in our community, and how to manage that best. Next slide, please. And it kind of all ended with this kind of looking at, well, we got this dam that has a lot of benefits to it. So, again, there's no perfect solutions. Is there anything we can do to kind of modify this or allow for salmon to get to the North Yuba River that they don't currently have access to? And so, they kind of all built up to this kind of looking at this solution that was proposed by this Yuba Salmon Partnership Initiative. And they had to kind of analyze the solution and then maybe talk about alternative solutions to, helping out the salmon in our watershed. Next slide. So here's like some student work. I guess I'll just go like kind of clockwise. From the top left is you can see here a sketch of a student's solution to having salmon be able to get to that sort of historic North Yuba River breeding grounds. In the middle there is another sort of proposed solution to kind of apply this salmon canal to the New Bullards Bar Dam. And you can see a graph there. I can tell you I have ninth graders. A lot of them struggle with analyzing graphs, and then you ask them to create a graph, and there's just so much is involved in that in terms of the scale of the y-axis, what to put on the x or y-axis, proper kind of titles and labels to make sure it's readable to an audience person. So there's kind of that depth of knowledge that they got to experience. And it was with data that is local. And then we had students look at the New Bullards Bar Dam, and they had to sketch it out. And then I don't have the final product into my classroom, but they all had to create these scaled versions of the New Bullards Bar Dam. So they had to deal with the ratios and figure out an exact scale, smaller version of the New Bullards Bar Dam. And I just have some examples of this kind of discussion we did of how do we make the New Bullards Bar Dam kind of more atmospheric river ready and handling those kind of times where there's too much water. Next slide, please. And so here's some student reflections. At the end of the unit, kind of fourth part was this reflection piece, and students reflected on their experience throughout this whole unit. And I can tell you, usually when you have students reflect, it's really superficial. There's maybe a few things that they remember or the most recent things, but the reflections, a lot of it goes back to stuff that they did, weeks prior. And they use vocabulary. And they really, I think the reflections, if you're kind of reading it to yourself, they show a connection of the sort of smaller concepts that they learned tying to this bigger issue of kind of water management in our watershed. Next slide, please. And so kind of some key words here that you can see is, and this happened throughout a lot of the student reflections, is the word useful or helpful. And so that kind of just ties into kind of one of the main takeaways once you have from this is the students have a why. They see the utility in learning this. You can tell them, oh, you're going to learn graphing skills, or you're going to learn to be a better reader, or you're going to learn different science principles. But again, that's a lot of remote stuff or kind of stuff that they don't connect to or see the utility of at this kind of point in their life. But then we talk about, hey, this is where you live. And so they use words like useful and helpful. Next slide, please. And so another kind of some keywords here that I saw that I usually don't see in student reflections and stuff like community and future. So they're able to see kind of how their information or knowledge maybe is applicable to their future as, future constituents and taxpayers and employees and just users of our watershed. And obviously they have family members too. So that's what I wanted to get kind of from these student reflections. And then next slide, please. And then my own reflections is a really unique opportunity. In my team kind of delving into this unit, I learned so much about the sort of county and the watershed. It allowed me to collaborate with teachers from other schools and even other districts. That is a very rare occasion. Part of again, another takeaway is kind of this deliberate design of the unit is really sort of effective in that, I get to do classroom observations. And this really helped to kind of hone my own craft of teaching. It allowed me to see this design was kind of solutionary based. So it really gets students thinking more deeper about information when they have to acknowledge and see a problem and then kind of come up with solutions. We had classroom observations. We got to see other teachers kind of teach the lessons. We did these really guided lesson self-studies that Nicodemus and Anna kind of guided us through. So I just feel like, myself just learned so much, and had a colleague at my school who also developed a unit for this curriculum. And she was like, we should make our department meetings more like the self-study rounds that we did with Anna and Nicodemus. So kind of seeing the utility, not just within this unit, but kind of just to us as teachers and taking it back to our department. And then the most probably more important thing in terms of my own reflection is kind of that student learning. Seeing students kind of use the word like useful and community and future. To me, that demonstrates that they internalize a lot what they learn. And they weren't just being like, why do we have to learn this? It was a lot of times students say that, even you're like, well, it's graphing, or like you have to understand how to interpret graphs because you're gonna have to do this in your future. And they're like, yeah, but why? And this answered that why. And a lot of times when students are presented with challenging curriculum, they're asked to do something difficult, they might go use the why as a cop-out to say, I'm not going to kind of work my way through this problem. But with this, they did. And even when students struggled, they're like, I do want to learn this. I do want to get it. So it was kind of this rigorous thing that was really worthwhile for them. So I wanted to say, again, the three main takeaways is kind of just Anna, Nicodemus, and Didi really support us in the design. We're deliberate about it being kind of solutionary based, which is not common to education, I can tell you. And that sort of design and kind of the rounds of sort of self-study and reflection, collaborating with other teachers, allow the kind of effectiveness of student learning, making that sort of learning really internalized. And then this just creates a wealth of knowledge within our school districts, within our community, for the teachers, but also obviously for our students. This was a sort of K through 12 project. So imagine a student who goes through and is dealing with salmon eggs in first grade, and they build it up each grade level, and they're exposed to different stuff. And by high school, they have all this wealth of knowledge that kind of carries over whatever they're going to do, post high school career. They have this kind of wealth of knowledge, and hopefully like an appreciation of our watershed and our community, and kind of become better stewards of that in whatever role that they can, but kind of not only appreciate it, but become stewards of it. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much for the support. It was an amazing experience for me and the students, and I really hope that this continues and kind of grows. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. How about a round of applause for Daniel, because that was remarkable. So before I hand it back to Creighton, I just want to say one more thing. And, in April's letter, she had mentioned that it was 2 of the most difficult years. And I just want to put a pin on that, because we are talking about 2 of the most challenging years ever. For any teacher I've ever met, they are all saying how difficult these last 2 years were. And all of these teachers went above and beyond and took on even more responsibility on top of all the chaos of the last 2 years, and really put their hearts and souls into this project to make it really special. So I just want to say another huge, huge thank you to everybody online and to April in the room. Thank you all so very much. So with that, I will hand it back over to Creighton to talk about the future.
So I was up here before, we were going to talk about next steps. I referenced next steps. So like with many projects here at the agency, we will have a third party review the work. And this is no different. So the work that's been completed here will be sent off to a consulting firm that is an expert in reviewing curriculum. And so that will be happening over the next couple of months. After that is done, we will come back to you and talk to you about the next steps in the process and how we show the product to the community, to the school districts, and out on our own website. So with that, do you have any questions about the steps moving forward or the work that was shown today?
Through the chair. Creighton, a quick question. Any opportunities to plant some seeds about all of the different jobs that are attached to these topics, particularly, of course, into the 9th and up years? There are so many jobs, and it could be a great opportunity to expose. Here's a list of some of the things that you might be interested in moving forward, and they come with degrees, heavy degrees or light degrees, and a lot of work. But I would think there would be that opportunity.
Yeah, I think they did a good job of referencing a lot of that work that would be translated into jobs to that, so we could work with them on that.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
First, I can't thank the teachers enough and staff for putting this together. I think what amazed me as I sit here is that I can't even imagine knowing this much about the agency when I was in the first grade or as a freshman in high school. I had no idea. I mean, I'd skied up there, but I still had no idea what the agency was. I'm so proud of the fact that students in Yuba County are getting to learn about this amazing project. And I think what impacts me the most, I don't remember any classes that taught me to love Yuba County and be proud of what we did. We were just here. We just grew up in Linda and we were around. This was our place. But this is an opportunity. And what I saw in the comments from the students and the photos were that this is a great place. Wow, look what we do. And I think that'll have more impact over the next generation than almost anything else. What they learn about the watershed, everything else is cool, but they are learning that this is an amazing place. And I can't wait for the next generation to come through. Those first graders who have learned for year after year what an amazing place Yuba County is and want to stay. Yes, there'll be jobs, there'll be opportunities, but mostly they'll have a love for this place that will change the world of Yuba County more than anything else. So I really think that's what hit me in this, and I'm just really, really proud of the team that put this together. I just want to say thank you and look forward to next steps. Thanks.
I'll say something.
Okay.
So this is really refreshing to see these young students. You hear a lot of negative things in the news and around but this approach and seeing these students and how they soak up all this, and it's really a good project. So thanks.
So April, Daniel, thank you for your presentations today and all the teachers involved in developing and piloting the curriculum and working on it. I guess I just want to echo what Brent said. I don't think I could say it any better, but it is super, super exciting to see this. And I can't wait until it's being taught at all grade levels in the county and across all schools. And so I guess my question is kind of related to that, and it might be a little early for you to answer that question, but how do we anticipate trying to make that happen? Encouraging that, kind of fostering that to ensure that it really is utilized across the county to the extent possible.
And I am not going to kind of deflect, from the question, but really this is the first step is really just evaluating it so we can get there and really concentrating on that with the evaluation firm and then standardizing the format on that. And then we'll come back to you at that point and talk to you about the steps moving forward. Because we'll have a better idea just on time frame and things like that. That could change what we do in the short term. So,
okay, totally understand.
Yeah. So, okay. But two things: a little concentration on the jobs. And Brent, did I hear water skiing classes as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
With electric boats.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Any additional board comments? Any public comment on this item? It is not an action item, so thank you, everyone. And with that, we will move on to the manager's report.
That's going to be a tough one to follow. I did learn, though, from Daniel a new term, and I'll have to credit him if it gets traction, but it's not just atmospheric rivers and arc spillways, but it's atmospheric river ready. I heard that, and it sounds like something we need to be, is atmospheric river ready, right? So thanks, Daniel, for that. New Bullards Bar is at a little over 800,000 acre feet, which is 104% of normal year to date. So we're looking good with storage. Like I report, every couple of weeks, we've done well with precipitation and managing our water this year. So, end of season storage we're going to be in good shape going into this precipitation season coming up. Our crew keeps working on routine maintenance with respect to recreation, but there's one item that came up since we last met, and that is security at New Bullards Bar. And over the past few years, we've had an increase in vandalism, break-ins. We actually had a car stolen a few weeks ago. Gas being stolen out of vehicles where the people are leaving their vehicles at the boat ramps overnight and that type of stuff. So what we did is we convened the sheriff department, the Forest Service, the marina, and agency staff. And we talked about, the details around the security incidents and what we've done in the past to minimize this and what we can do in the future. And basically, we all kind of have different solutions and think there's, different benefits from implementing each one of those. And I won't go into the detail on what they are, but I think the biggest thing is we need to communicate better amongst those four folks. We have staff up there almost every day. Forest Service does as well. The marina's there all summer long. And then the sheriff's, got folks up there. So what we haven't done, it was very simple. The sheriff, here's one example. The sheriff said, look, I need a report on everything. No matter how small it is. If someone's portable stereo got stolen out of the back of their pickup, I need to know. I need that information so I can act on it and we can move forward. We talked about things like gates and cameras and hiring security patrol, and we didn't come to any hard solid conclusions on what we need to do, but we agreed to meet monthly and continue to work on this because it is an issue and it's an ever increasing issue. So we'll be working on that, and I'll report out as necessary. With respect to operations and maintenance, we do have a new communications tower installed at the Monument parking lot area at New Bullards Bar Spillway parking lot, and that's for camera upgrades on the dam. We've been working on that for a long time. On Sunday, we did the semi-annual low-level outlet and butterfly valve testing at Bullards. We do it on Sunday in kind of the peak generation period because that's when prices are lowest. But then we had a bit of an incident on Sunday evening that was, affected Colgate unit number 1. So I'll explain that. And I'm going to give you a little more detail than I normally give on these because this is the first incident where a unit has tripped offline. So Colgate 1 tripped offline, and it tripped offline because of a factor that is within our control. 99.9% of the time, the factors are outside our control: flood, fire, lightning, PG&E transmission, misoperation, something like that. But unit number 1 Sunday evening tripped offline due to an overvoltage condition. A relay, a sensor within the unit picked it up and said, okay, something's not going right here. There's too much voltage on the unit, trip offline. It's one of those puzzling things when you're an operator sitting at the desk and, it happens. And it's not caused by an obvious thing like, oh, there's a lightning strike or there's a storm in the air. There was no wildfires. It's abnormal. So the unit was offline. We had a couple guys inspect it and make sure that it was in decent shape to shut down overnight. And then Monday we started investigating the cause. And the cause turns out to be there is a feature in our relays. Relay is like the device that senses and then acts when it senses something's wrong. There's a feature in our relay that the industry, the generation industry, doesn't necessarily utilize or use on their generators. We are one of just a few that use this particular overvoltage relay. The reason we do is because we operate conservatively. We want to protect our generators. We don't want to have a catastrophic failure. And I'll tell you, we did not have a catastrophic failure. We had an operation of a relay that was too sensitive. Okay, so everything is safe. Our generator's in great shape. We are losing, the unit is still offline right now. We are losing some potential generation revenue opportunity, but we're not wasting water. That same water is just going through the other unit, and we're fine. So everything's fine with our unit. But we did find that the setting in this relay was just slightly too sensitive, and it's a setting that it's a setting on a generator condition that evolves over time. Many of the settings, like if you have a 230 kV line, you know that 242,000 volts is too much. It's always too much. On every 230 kV line, 242,000 volts is too much. So that's when the relay would operate on a transmission line. However, this particular characteristic of the generator evolves over time. It has to do with vibration, and every unit has its own vibration characteristic, and it changes throughout time based on demand on the grid, based on the wear on the machine. At any rate, and I know this is a lot of detail, but we basically have the root cause and we have the fix, and that's why I'm just getting it all out right now. So like I said, most industry doesn't even use this protective characteristic. A catastrophic failure, if we didn't protect the unit under this characteristic, could be, years of, repair of the unit. We're talking like unit meltdown, right? So major consequence. So what we're doing now is we're testing the unit today to determine how this characteristic has changed over time. The manufacturer of this particular relay and the industry doesn't have a recurring testing and reevaluation of the metric of the relay. We are on the leading edge of the industry. We are basically establishing that. The crew got together last night and this morning and said, look, we need to adjust the setting every 5 years. Like I said, a 230 kV line setting isn't ever adjusted. It's 242 and it trips. We need to revisit the parameters around this factor and adjust every 5 years. So we're basically writing industry level prescriptions for generator maintenance based on experience. That's what we're learning here. So bottom line is we had the generator trip offline on Sunday. It's still offline, but we found the cause. There's no damage to the generator. There's some potential lost generation opportunity. We're still making revenue with the other generator. We'll get this generator tested today, back online probably by the end of the day today, and we'll implement a testing recurrence interval probably of every 5 years for this factor. I know that's a lot of detail, but like I said, in 6 years of working here, this is the first time we've had a generator trip for something that we have control over. And it was new. It was interesting. We're glad that the generator's okay. We're glad that it wasn't something catastrophic. But I think you all needed to know kind of our program and practice around this. Any questions on that one? Because I know there's a lot there.
Congratulations. I just appreciate that we're staying in front and that you're doing what needs to be done. So great job.
You said it was a vibration problem?
It's not a vibration like with the generator moving around. It's an electrical harmonic. And Charlie, I didn't want to get into that because it's way beyond my understanding. Something like that, Charlie.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So moving along, and thanks for listening. I know that that's a lot of detail, but I wanted you to hear it. We're still in a drought, or the state's still in a drought. Like I said, we're in good shape. Significant, and that's kind of the other unfortunate thing. We have this significant heat event the last, end of last week, over the weekend, into this week. So not having both generators, we're losing, slightly bit of generation opportunity, and hopefully we get it back online. But I did meet with the crew yesterday morning, when they first started investigating this, and I think we need to remind them, don't rush to a conclusion. Don't put the generator back online until you know what the cause was, because, generation prices are 50% higher than they have been. We want to minimize the likelihood of, something else going wrong. So I really appreciate the crew. That's probably what I missed, is these guys jumping on it, 1, late Sunday night, 2, Monday diagnosing it, and by Tuesday we have a story for you guys to tell, and it's a good story. So thanks to the crew and the team. Okay. Human resources update. We're pleased to announce our newest employee, Matt Murray. He's a senior hydro civil engineer. He started last week, and he'll step into Kyle Morgado's position. Kyle went over to work for Ryan McNally in our flood risk reduction group. Matt comes from the Department of Water Resources, where he spent 12 years there and resides in Orville with his family, and he's a welcome addition to the engineering team. We have interviews for a staff accountant. They occurred last week, and we've extended a conditional offer to one candidate. We've had some movement for our supervising electrical tech position and anticipate scheduling interviews in the next couple weeks. We're still actively recruiting for a hydroelectric compliance analyst and environmental specialist or senior environmental specialist, and we've received several qualified applicants for both positions and anticipate scheduling interviews in the coming weeks. The HR department has welcomed intern Gagan Chung to the team for this summer. Gagan will be assisting the team on developing trainings, team building activities, and research on supplemental benefits. She's a graduate student at CSU Monterey Bay, and we're excited to have her as part of the team for this summer. The summer interns will be making presentations to you all at the following meetings: August 2nd, 16th, and September 6th. The presentations will include information about the projects worked on, and they will talk about the things they learned while working for us and share their overall experience about their time with the agency. Presentations will be about 5 to 10 minutes long, and it'll include some time for questions and answers. This is our typical program for the summer. I think it's the most enjoyable part for me is to see what they've learned and have them present to you. So August 2nd, 16th, and September 6th. HR is also working on with other local agencies and Beale Air Force Base on developing a career fair for Air Force Base spouses and active duty members who are nearing retirement. The department is conducting final demonstrations for a human resources information system. The team is looking for an HRIS that incorporates digitization of personnel records, workflow automation, onboarding and offboarding, performance evaluation, tracking, and training management. Through automation, the team seeks to both improve service and eliminate wasted resources. And lastly, the department continues to revamp its recruiting efforts by proactively and aggressively searching for untapped talent. So that HR summary is pretty lengthy. We're kind of always coming to you with new hires because the agency is still slightly expanding and we have retirements and backfills and all that. But I want to recognize Teresa. Teresa, are you here? So much of that stuff that I just went over, like the human resources information system and upgrading or developing our recruiting program. Teresa's new. We've been here for a few months, and she's got time to settle in, identify things that the agency could improve on, and now is starting to implement some of these improvements in HR that, frankly, Terry knows this stuff, but I don't really know this stuff, and I'm seeing it come up, and I'm seeing these, proposals and products come up, and it's just a, example of what Teresa is bringing from the outside. So, Teresa, I know you weren't prepared for that, but thank you. Okay, communications. We received some nice coverage for our sponsorship of the 4th of July fireworks show at the River Bottoms. We are also meeting with a writer for National Geographic later today to talk about our watershed resilience program. In community relations, we had a booth and showed the Tricky Yuba documentary at the Peach Festival last weekend. We also were given a leadership award at the festival, which Director Bradford accepted on our behalf. Thanks, Gary. Earlier this month, we gave a special tour of Bullards to representatives of RCRC. Thanks, Randy. Next week, we'll be doing a very special tour for graduate level students in a special program with Scripps Institute to learn about forecast-informed reservoir operations. We'll have approximately 40 people on the tour of Bullards and Colgate. Basically, that signals to you all we are open back up for tours. We're not really starting our public tours yet, but strategic tours with industry and partners in the industry. We're starting those up again. I know Phil has a big tour coming up with NHA in the fall. So letting you know that we're starting those now. Okay, upcoming meetings. August 2nd is a regular Board of Directors meeting, followed by a special meeting for continuing the discussion of the strategic plan update. And we'll also have an ABP committee meeting that day. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board questions? Okay, we'll move on to board member reports. Director Vasquez? Director Blazer?
Just that we're going to be scheduling a meeting on an update on the progress with Ellis Lake.
Okay,
probably the next week or so.
Director Fuhrer, nothing? Okay. Director Fletcher?
So the Yuba Water Agency is hosting a reception to the board and local water districts. We'll have some special guests that will show up. You're all invited. So that is set for August the 4th. This is through Mountain County Water at 5 to 7 p.m. at Tracy's. So mark your calendars if you can make it. That'd be great. And thanks for hosting.
Thank you. Director Matthews?
As we all realize, there was another fire up at Dobbins yesterday. The Forest Service is doing an unbelievable job of attacking early and putting them out. But it shows again that the whole North Yuba watershed could use water. And I know there's different organizations have different goals. And our hope is still that we can get irrigation to the North Yuba watershed, because I think that is, when you look at wildlife and areas that are irrigated don't burn.
Thank you. Yeah, a couple things. One, you just can't, being successful, you still get complaints. So I was up at the lake on Saturday night, and people are complaining, you know, the river's it's so high that I can't find a good parking spot, and it's much harder to maneuver down at the bottom. There's just not much room when it's this high. I'm like, God, kidding me. So, success. And then secondly, on some very, very sad news, Jerry Gladback, who was president of the Aqua JPIA Insurance Company, and was president since, I want to say 2008, passed away last Wednesday in an accident. And so just wanted to let you know. Jerry was also a past Aqua president and had been serving on his water board for 37 years and had stayed at the very top of his game, serving his community. He was on the LAFCO. He was on the LA LAFCO board. I mean, he's just been super for many, many decades serving his community, and just wanted to let you know that he had passed, and just wanted to thank him for his service and let you guys know.
Thank you. Okay, as mentioned by Willie at the Marysville Peach Festival, Yuba Water Agency was awarded the Visionary Leadership Award. This award is new this year and was named for Didar Baines, a local farmer and community leader who was affectionately known as the Peach King. So here's the award right here. So I'll have it up here after for anyone who wants to come check it out, and then we'll send it back to the office for safekeeping over there. So we thank the community for this recognition, and especially I want to thank the Yuba Water Agency team. So my fellow board members, our amazing staff. You know, it's your visionary leadership that is the reason we received this award. So thank you. And any additional comments from other staff? Okay. Seeing.
Brent, would you like to close the meeting on behalf of
Jerry? I would be honored. Thank you.
That'd be great.
So Jerry Gladback, and I'll give you the spelling.
Okay.
I think if the chair signs, it's okay. I can
That'd be
promise
great.
you that he will be getting dozens of them from all over the state. So I think if Jerry signs it, that would be great.
Okay. And with that, I will adjourn. Just a reminder, we do have a 10:30 special board workshop over at the agency office. So we'll see you guys over there in about 15 minutes. Thank you.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com. Skip's Marysville Music Cafe, with lessons, in person and personalized. Instruments including guitars and amps, horns, strings for instruments, and a myriad of music and sound equipment. Skip's Marysville Music Cafe.